Hey everybody, so I missed a game, and I know it's kind of hard to believe that a game kind of flew by and I didn't catch it on my radar, but it happened, and it's called Pandemic Rapid Response. All the puns intended, for sure. This game is a real-time dice rolling rapid response to all the world crises in the pandemic universe. And it's really interesting, smart, fun, exciting, all the things you want a pandemic to be. So stay tuned and I'll talk about my experience playing Pandemic Rapid Response. As with all the other pandemic games, players are going to take on a special role. And these roles, there are a variety of them, so deal them out randomly. The game suggests your first time to leave out a couple of the roles and take on the new ones. Do it. Just do it. I love recommendations from games that say, okay, we've offered you some choices, but some of these choices are a little bit better for your first time through. In my game, I played Anton Marinchik. He's the flight planner. And it says when you spend a die to fly, you may move the plane one additional city. Yay! That's amazing! It's like having that super cool one side of the die that's just awesome for you. So players are going to have these roles that are going to help them do things in the game, and the game is just this big plane. You've got the map of a plane on the interior, and there's the cargo hold at the end, there's the recycling center next to it, there are the 5 different symbols or dice needs that come in the middle central part of the plane. And then at the very front end of it is kind of like that mission control, which is your discs, your timer, and your cards. The cool thing about this game is that the timer is running all the time. You have a sand timer, and that's essentially tracking when you are going to reveal a new city that has a new need. And this game works on the crises that are on the perimeter of the plane board. And so you've got 24 cities that possibly have needs, and they have needs along the lines of medicine needs, food needs, water needs, healthcare needs, and energy. So they have these needs. Those are the 5 sides of the dice with those symbols that match. And you are going to go around these rooms generating the resources necessary to then take to the cargo hold to then deliver when your plane reaches the city that needs those cubes. And you win the game by getting rid of all the needs. You essentially have addressed every city that's shown up, and you have flown around the map getting to those cities, dropping off the necessary resources and supplies. Now, in the easy game, you start off with 3 discs, and those are your, essentially, you got 3 rounds plus into the next round. If you have 0, you can still go the next turn, but if you go to reach for a disc and there's not one, game over. So you have 3 discs, and you also start with 3 additional cards that you flip over when the sand timer runs out. So you start with 2, random, just played out at the beginning of the game, and you also start randomly where your plane is, just by flipping over another card, and then you have 3 more cities that are going to reveal when the sand timer goes down. So players are playing in real time, and they're rolling their dice, but they're doing it turn by turn. And on a player's turn, they will grab their dice, roll them, and they will have up to 2 re-rolls that they get to make throughout their entire turn. But on their turn, they can use a die to move from one adjacent space to the next. They can spend a die to essentially make resources as long as they've done the right amount in a grouping. And some of these locations of the 5 require that you play 1 or 2 or 3 at the same time to lock your dice in. And the more dice you put in a particular colored region, like say towards the Band-Aids medicine region, you're going to get more cubes. Now, there are only 4 cubes of each kind that you can collect and bank to put in your cargo hold. But when you bank those resources by saying, I'm going to release all of the locked dice, you have to roll for recycling because you're going to create and generate waste. And recycling happens when you have the circle around the image when you take all the dice that you've unlocked and you've made all those resources, you roll them, and this is again all timed, and then you move the waste marker. And if the waste marker ever reaches the skull and crossbones, you made too much waste in trying to help everybody and you lose the game. And so you have to keep your waste down. So there's a place to go in the waste room where you have to go and like work on that recycling, and you have to essentially fix the problems that you made inside of the plane and inside of the game as you help people. You roll your dice again. You can re-roll up to 2 by moving, adding your dice to those locations. You can activate the cargo hold by being in that room and putting down a plane symbol, and that means you're making the delivery. You are sending all the cubes down to that particular city if your plane is in the city location. And that's it. You roll your dice, you do your things, you go here, and you're like, done. And then the play passes to the person to your left, and then they do their turn, and they're like, I'm running out here, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing that, and I'm going over here. And then they're done, and then the next player goes. And you go until the timer runs out. At that point, it interrupts whoever's turn it is. You interrupt, you stop, you take one of those discs away. You're that much closer to defeat. You flip over a brand new city card if there is still one in your deck remaining, and you turn the timer over again, and you go. So this game is so high energy. It is so thinking on your feet. It's working together. It's talking it through, but it's really just acting. And every player, more so than any other pandemic game that I've played, is doing what they can without an alpha gamer, without that kind of, quarterbacking. You are making choices. You are running around and doing what you can with your dice. But sometimes your dice get locked in a room because you haven't activated it just yet, because you really just need 1 or 2 more dice to get even more resources. And so you have to really be ready to not be rolling all of your dice at the time. You have to be willing to not just get the rolls you need and move as fast as possible. When we started our first game, I have to say we were moving at a quick pace. I knew that this game was going to require us to be quick, but I didn't realize it was going to be frantic. And by the end of the game, we were just nonstop, yelling and talking everything out and just being really verbal. It forced us to be really, really aware of our choices and super obvious with what we were saying. I'm moving adjacent to this room, so I expend this die. Now I'm going to re-roll my dice. I add 2 syringes to the syringes. I'm going to use this 1 die to move adjacent to the red room. And now I'm going to roll my dice. I got a Band-Aid. I put a Band-Aid in. My turn's up. Go. And you have to just simply state everything that you're doing so that you don't make mistakes and so that you use your special abilities. So mine was move the plane twice when you have a 1 plane action. I'd put my plane die on my player card and say, move the plane twice. And Lewis would go, plane. And then, we would just say all that stuff. We would say, okay, I'm activating this room. We get 3 resources in the cargo hold. Roll for waste. We'd roll and say, 3 waste. Move the marker 3 waste. Okay, your turn. So it's a very exciting, high energy, fast-paced game that has the same pandemic feel. I loved it. I had a great time. It's a wonderful cooperative game. It's a wonderful real-time game. It's easy to learn and get into, and I love dice rolling, so I like this game. And I thought it was just a really good experience. There are ways to make the game harder with crises cards. I have not played with those yet because, oh my gosh, it sounds terrifying. And you can also amp up the gameplay from easy to normal. And then there are 2 higher levels that make it extremely hard to play. It just lengthens that time needed to finish and to do a really good job. And it just makes it really hard. So you start off with more cards and you have more cards in your deck. So it just, again, lengthens that time spent. But learn the game on easy and share it with a couple friends who don't mind being a little bit loud and a little bit frenzied. Thanks for joining me for my overview and review of Pandemic Rapid Response. How did I miss it?